Hey everyone, so back in March we did a month of mountains and this is the very final painting. I was having so much fun. I was playing with some colors of the sunsets and sunrise and I thought let's add some mountains. I created a bookmark as well as just a little bit of a larger mountainscape with just a couple of colors. Again, lots of layering, a little bit of splattering. It was so fun to do, very relaxing and a wonderful way of creating a mountainscape for spring. So grab a couple pieces of paper, do some lovely background colors that I'll do with you in the video, and enjoy this gorgeous spring mountainscape with a beautiful sunrise. Hey everyone, okay, are you ready for maybe a few more watercolor mountains? I have a fun one for you today as we're finished with our month of mountains, but I have just a couple of projects I want to throw in here. As we move into spring, I have been watching some really gorgeous sunrises and sunsets, and I was really having fun taking watercolor and just seeing if I could create that sense of layers of the beautiful light that was coming through. And so then I thought, as I was playing one day, I thought, okay, I've laid down the layer of colors now, right? Then what if I just went ahead and laid down the mountains on top of them, showing how that light was just coming through. So that's what we're going to create today. Isn't that pretty? I think this is just really, really lovely. And it's simple, it's fun. On this one too, you can see where the mountains in the forefront are going to be darker, right? Because they're more in the shadow while the sun is creeping over, and even the beams of the sun are starting to sneak into the valley, which I think is just a really lovely way to welcome spring. Of just thinking of spring, of just kind of rolling in, right? I know you can't see my hands. I'm moving my hands around. So what I did is I had taken a couple of different pieces of paper. I had a lot of scrap watercolor paper that was cut up from other projects, and I just had created some beautiful colors. This one has a bunch of splatters, and I'm going to turn this one into a bookmark. This one was white. I had this was a wreath, obviously, but I think we're going to just flip this on the back, but I'm going to show you really quick how I create those. I would recommend watching the sunrise one morning, especially now the sun is rising a little bit later. So maybe on the weekend with a cup of tea or coffee, watch the sunrise, note the colors, and then start to emulate them on your watercolor paper. I don't even take mine down. What I end up doing is just letting it go all over, and then I will just put on some jars on the edges or put it under a couple of big thick books. But I'm going to just do one from memory this morning, not memory, just thinking about what I've been seeing. And a lot of times too, I think it's really fascinating because you're seeing the light pop up from different areas, right? And you're starting to see almost like streams of sunlight coming across the sky, which in a lot of times you can go as slow or as fast as you want. And sometimes it feels like you have these brilliant bursts of colors, right? And then all of a sudden it changes, which is nice to take a picture sometimes, but also just do it live. Just paint the colors as you're seeing them. And I am going to grab a little bit of blue because a lot of times too, we're seeing that blue start to come up. It's just breaking that night sky. Be careful of getting your blue paint too close to your yellow because of course that's going to create some green, so you might need to let it dry for just a little bit. And I really love it. I was jogging the other morning and the sun had not quite come up. So you're just seeing all of its rays. And it was the most beautiful pink and orange rays that were popping up against that dark blue sky. It was just magnificent. So you can see too here, I am just moving along here, letting everything, and the paper, my words this morning, the paper is billowing a bit, and or buckling. That's okay. I'm not worried about that. And letting that yellow and pink and the gamboge mix together will just really create some gorgeous colors. So you can just kind of move the paint, and yeah, it's messy. It totally is. But that's kind of the beauty of it when you're looking at that sky and the different colors. And it may be too that you're watching a morning where the colors are a bit softer. Maybe they're not the bright colors. It's more of the soft hues and creating colors like that. So again, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to set this aside here. I'm going to take just a little bit more blue here. And maybe we'll put just a hint of blue right in here. And then too, what I often will do I have a couple jars. If I was letting this dry, I might even just take a jar and just go like this on the edges, so it will just dry flat like that. You don't have to wait for it to dry and then put under book. Just use some jars at the end. So I am gonna just move this out of the way now, and we'll end up using this as I create another one of these mountain projects. I'm just gonna put a bit more gamboge right in here, a little bit more pink, right? So we can really make it pop. And then we're gonna just let that dry. I'll put a little bit in here as well. Okay, so then we would go ahead and let that dry. And if you want to let that dry, then come back, and then we're going to go ahead and start the rest of the project. So now on these ones, I'm going to go just sketch in my mountains. And I am not too concerned about making them even. I'm not trying to make them look a certain way, as far as you can certainly look at a picture, but I am just going to go ahead on this one right now, for example, and I'm just going to sketch in some mountains. I do like them to be different lengths. I'll have this one kind of coming out in the front, and I think maybe I'll have another tall one sticking out right here. Maybe this one has more of a crater to it, and that one will be in the back. And then over here, and we'll just keep that one as a threesome, three mountains. Now on my bookmark, what I was thinking for fun, I was gonna go ahead and almost just do like a range of mountains. Some of them giving them maybe more of a soft peak. Some have a craggy top. I was gonna have them moving in different angles. This one will be in the front. If you have an eraser, feel free to go ahead and make any eraser marks too that you want to do. Okay, and then maybe I'll have one over here that's nice and thin, jetting up to the sky and then coming down like this, and then a mountain back here, and maybe we'll have another one over here. So again, I'm just kind of moving these around. I'll maybe make one back here. Almost like you're looking at like the Lake Tahoe. If you've been to Lake Tahoe and that ridge of mountains, or the Rocky, is it the Rocky Ridge? I know there's several mountain ranges in the United States that are just gorgeous, just mountain after mountain. So we have our mountains all laid out here, and then I've got my 3 mountains here, and I even might add some details to this one later. So now that I have those down, I'm gonna go ahead and start grabbing some of my greens and blues and laying them down. And thinking too, okay, I am going to be using some of the blue that I used in my sky. So I'm going to do a layer of blue in this mountain in the front. I'm going to pick up some green as well, and then just also lay that down. And again, just like we did in the first couple of mountains, we're just laying down that paper. Laying down the paint. I'm going to make sure you can see all this nicely. I'm going to come in a little bit more. I'm going to lay down over here as well. And I'm using, in this one, this is a permanent green. So it's a lighter green, and I'll pick up some of the Hooker's green, and you'll see the difference here. So this is Hooker's green, and you can see how much darker that is. I actually like to blend them. This permanent green we'll be using a lot as we start painting flowers, the spring flowers that have this really beautiful, warm sensation to them. I really like blending the colors too. I think they work very, very nicely together. I'm actually going to take some blue here and just add some blue into this guy right here. I want to create a sense of that line of delineation, right, of separating the mountains. So I'm going to let that blue soak in here. Also, you'll notice I'm going to let some of those other colors shine through. So the little bit of the pink and the yellow. I'm going to add a little bit blue up here, just letting those colors dance around. I'm leaving a little bit of a line of light here, and then over here, let's bring that mountain down and letting that move just like that. We're going to let that start to dry just for a little bit. I'm going to add maybe just a little bit of green right in here so that we can get some coloring too. And on this one, I might come back in and do some pen work. Like I'll show you at the end what I was working on with another one, and I might add some quotes to some of these. I haven't decided yet. So let's then come over here. And again, I'm going to start just working in some of that green in my different mountains. And you can see I'm not even going terribly dark. And I'm not coloring it all in too. You could even incorporate a little bit of brown if you wanted to, just to show some of that if we had some rock formations. So let me pick up some brown just to throw in a different color, right? I know we had done on the Hobbit inspired mountain, our lonely mountain. I had added in some brown, so I can certainly do that in here too. And just brown will add some depth, right? And I'm just moving that around really softly, not dark at all. And then what I can do is after I come in with the brown, I'm going to start adding in some blues and some greens. So this mountain in front, I'll make this a little bit bolder. And keep that edge nice. And you see too, I am just keep the edge nice and sharp is what I meant to finish there. You can see too, I'm not painting it in big sweeps of paint. I'm almost dabbing different areas. Right up there. And then I can come back too and take in some blue and start to add in some blue over here. Now you might say I had added quite a bit of blue up there, and so maybe that sunset or sunrise, sunset, whichever one it is that you're painting is not going to come up so strongly, but we can always add in a little bit more after this all dries. So I'm going to add some green now, and just again playing with different colors. This is a great way too to kind of look at how your different colors mix and match. This is that light permanent green. That's really, I call it my favorite spring green. I'm going to go right up here and just really playing with these mountains. It's really fun to do that landscape, and we're painting fairly small, so we're not overwhelmed with a ton of paint. It's a pretty controlled amount of paint that's on the surface. I'm going to come back over here with this guy too. And then with these, I'm going to add in, I'm going to put a little bit of water. And let's go ahead and add in some of the hooker's green so you can see what that looks like when I add it on top. And that looks really nice. Again, we want the ones in closer up to be a little bit more bolder. And I'm even going to come back in with some of that blue I used in the sky and tap in that blue right on the side. So showing some of the depth. Maybe we have some trails or some grass or some wildflowers. And I'm going to come back over here as well and take some of that blue on this side and bringing it right in the base like that. So you can see how it's all coming together. It's coming together really, really nicely. And beautiful, beautiful mountain ranges there against that really lovely sky. And you notice our sky and our mountains are not bleeding into each other since we did paint them separately and then they've dried separately. Now you might want to come back too, so I can let that dry now, and that's starting to look really nice. And you'll see over here, like on this one, we really have the beautiful depth of color. So you might want to come back into, I'm going to mix up some blue and some green on my palette. And then I'm even going to come back over here and just add that in. And then even down here a little bit too. And just pulling that all the way in. I'm also going to take just a little bit of pink, just a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink right in here. That might turn into, add a little bit of brown, that's fine. I just want to play with a little bit with the pink that I have also playing right here in the sky and some of that blue and yellow. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow as well, and I'm going to just come over here, pretend that yellow is merging, just peeking itself over the mountain. Okay, that's looking really nice. We're going to let that dry, and then I do want to show you as well that what we can end up doing is something like this. where you can see here where I took the micron pen and I began to add in just some details. I had some of that water merging or that bleeding of the mountain and the sky bleeding into each other. So I added some micron pen after I had dabbed it a little bit. But then I also was adding grass over here. You could certainly put in trees with your micron pen. I was even thinking of putting on a quote on one of them, like this one, for example. It turned out actually really nice. It's pretty light, especially in the sky. So I was considering writing a quote, and then just, you can see where the sky and the mountain bled into each other a bit. I can either fix that with a little bit of color, like I could even do that now. Just take a little bit of color, the blue-green, and just clean that up a bit. Don't be hesitant to go back and just clean up your paintings when we have a little bit of bleeding. Once it's all dry, it won't bleed so much because you don't have the liquid in the sky to bleed into. It can happen, but there's a lot more control. So I'm going to add again a little bit more blue right there, and we'll let that dry now. Add a little bit more yellow just to keep that variation of color too. Maybe show where there's some grassy areas right up here, for example, too. I'm going to put a little bit more of that yellow-green, as if maybe the sun, this was more of the sun is up but covered with a cloudy day, so maybe the sun is bursting through. But play with these. You can make some changes on them, but I hope you enjoyed that. Just a really fun way, another way of creating these beautiful mountains, adding in more color with that beautiful sky. So I will see you guys soon, and enjoy making these gorgeous mountains.